It's Tuesday, April 20th, right now on Good Morning Indiana.
I think a lot of us stayed up most of the night, just chatting back and forth, any news that we could get our hands on.
News of Indy's latest mass shooting spread fast on social media and neighborhood apps. This morning, we're talking to app developers about how they get information.
Indy's latest mass shooting is raising questions about the state's red flag law.
I think it's important to note that this case does illustrate some of the shortcomings that exist with this red flag law.
Why local prosecutors say the law's loopholes need fixed.
Plus, while the rollout of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine remains paused, Hoosiers are heading towards other options. New this morning, one of the state's largest mass vaccination clinics is able to stay on track.
On this Tuesday, we are tracking the very latest on that FedEx investigation. Well, our Todd Clausen is tracking the very latest and a change in your forecast. Todd, fill us in on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, you know, all is quiet right now, Raphael. Temperatures are in the 30s and 40s, which isn't too abnormal for this time of year. You need to grab the light jacket. What is abnormal is the snow that is going to be heading our way later on this afternoon. It doesn't happen all that often this late into the month of April, but it does happen occasionally. Our latest snow ever for the city of Indianapolis is in early May. And on radar right now, you can see some rain and snow showers north of Lafayette as you work your way into the Monticello area north of Peru. A lot of these showers are going to hang up there throughout the morning hours. It's really not until the afternoon that we start to see the rain, and then eventually the snow progress southward and make its way into most of central Indiana. So this morning, if you want to get out and do some things, you're just fine. As we get closer to the evening hours, that's when things are going to go downhill a little bit weather-wise, so to speak. And here's the timeline. 10 a.m., still those showers in northern locations as we work our way into early afternoon. Rain eventually to mix and some snow in northern locations. And then it approaches the metro area as we work our way into the evening hours. A lot of the changeover doesn't happen until we get closer to sunset. So we're talking sunset is a little after 8:15, but I think by 7 o'clock as the temperatures start to cool, that's when we start to see this snow develop across the area. It could be heavy at times later on this evening. The good news is a lot of it will melt as it falls, as temperatures will still be above freezing and the ground is very, very warm after temperatures in the 60s with all that sunshine yesterday. But this morning, as we get you going, just mostly cloudy skies and temperatures, Lauren, that are going to be in the 40s.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. We're keeping a close eye on your commute from our live drive vehicle. Our photographer Shay Goodpaster is behind the wheel, and this is a view from his dash cam as he travels southbound on I-65 near Keystone Avenue. We'll continue to keep you updated if we run into any problems for your commute. Right now, it's pretty quiet around the metro area for your Tuesday. Megan?
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. And this morning, funeral arrangements are set for at least one of the FedEx shooting victims. Visitation for Matthew Alexander will be held from 3 to 8 on Thursday at the Plainfield Christian Church. The funeral service will be held at the same church at 11 a.m. on Friday. The 32-year-old worked for FedEx for 10 years. Loved ones say he was known for his laid-back nature, sense of humor, and heart of gold. Meanwhile, FedEx says it's in the process of providing direct financial support for funeral arrangements, hospital expenses, and other needs for the families and victims of Thursday's attack. The company says it also is providing grief counseling and support resources, and it also created an online fundraiser. It's called the Indianapolis 415 Survivors Fund. Donations will help support the families of those who died and others impacted by this tragedy. FedEx donated $1 million to launch the fund. You can find more information on WRTV.com.
It is 6:04. IMPD is releasing some new information about how that attack unfolded and the shooter's history. So investigators say the shooting lasted less than 4 minutes and it was over before officers arrived. They say 19-year-old Brandon Hull bought the guns used in this attack legally in July and September of last year. The new report also reveals Hull was terminated from FedEx in October of last year when he failed to return to work. During an investigation in March of 2020, police say an officer saw white supremacist websites on Hull's computer. Investigators have not shared a possible motive for last week's attack. Raphael?
New this morning, we're taking a closer look at this developing story. You see, Indiana's red flag law is not doing enough to keep weapons out of the hands of people facing mental health issues. The FedEx shooter had a shotgun seized back in March of 2020, but he was still able to buy 2 more weapons after that point. Brandon's family alerted authorities back in March 3rd of 2020 about his suicidal thoughts, including suicide by cop after he purchased a weapon. And that weapon, the shotgun, was seized. The Marion County Prosecutor's Office decided not to seek a court order challenging Brandon Hull's rights to gun ownership because under the law's 14-day time limit, the office could not prove a pattern of him being violent or emotionally unstable conduct and could not prove that he failed to take prescribed medication.
And in this particular situation, we had a case where it was just a single incident. There were not any other incidents that were reported to us. The firearm was taken from the home. There was an agreement that firearm would not be returned. The individual was involuntarily committed for a brief period of time.
So keep this also in mind. The prosecutor says that Brandon Hull's mental health attention last year only lasted a couple of hours and that he received no medication after that visit to that facility. The prosecutor also wants people to know that even if he had filed a case against Hull, the proceedings could take months upon months, and under the law, Brandon could still continue buying weapons until a judge ruled against it.
And as Raphael just mentioned there, the red flag law was not used against the FedEx shooter. And our own Kelsey Anderson joins us now to break down exactly what that law is. Kelsey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Lauren. So that red flag law has been around Indiana since 2005, and it's also known as the Jake Laird Law. It's named after Officer Timothy Jake Laird, who was shot and killed in 2004, just 4.5 years into his time with the Indianapolis Police Department. Laird was shot by a man who months earlier was hospitalized for an emergency detention and had his weapons taken away by police. After his release, he wanted them back, and police had no legal authority to keep the weapons away from him. The Jake Laird Law was passed in 2005 and amended in 2019 to address this issue, and it has made a difference.
I have police officers call me and departments call us all the time, still to this day, saying, hey, I got to use the Jake Laird Law today. So I think it's done a lot of good.
The law has been used hundreds of times in Indianapolis, and Laird's father says he knows it's not perfect, but he's glad that his son's legacy is tied to a tool to help law enforcement. Prosecutor Mears says the shooting at FedEx shows some of the downfalls of the law that need to be addressed. So to hear more from Prosecutor Mears, you can head over to WRTV.com right now. That's where you're going to see that full press conference from yesterday where he talks about those loopholes and what he thinks needs to be adjusted in the Laird Law. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Kelsey, thank you. It is 6:08. We can tell you 50 mass shootings have happened across our country since just March 16th. 3 of those happened right here in the Circle City. Now, the recent mass shootings are being considered a public health crisis. New this morning, I talk with a health expert about what she thinks should be done to stop them.
Not saying that, hunters and other people who legitimately want to safely have guns, nobody's saying that they can't have those. What we're saying from a public health perspective is that we have got to eliminate and limit access to the ones that are designed to kill fellow human beings and to do it very quickly and very effectively.
Last month, President Biden announced a list of executive orders aimed at combating gun violence in America. Megan.
Time now is 6:09. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Chief called the FedEx mass shooting something no one should have to see. It's a traumatic event that shocked many people mentally and emotionally. Now, the Indianapolis Fraternal Order of Police, or FOP, is helping their responding officers cope with that trauma. They spent time following up with everyone from dispatchers to police officers. The FOP, along with chaplains from the Billy Graham response team, talked and listened to the first responders impacted by the tragedy.
It's going to be natural to experience fear, anger, disillusionment with what occurred. The natural questions of how can such a bad thing happen to good, innocent people. Events like this remind us that evil really does exist in our world. And it's our law enforcement officers and others who try to keep that evil away from the innocent. But when the unthinkable happens, tragic times like these remind us of our need for one another.
Indy FOP's president right there says the group is working with IMPD leadership to make sure the officers and detectives affected by this tragedy have the resources and support they need physically, mentally, and spiritually. Raphael.
During this ongoing pandemic, Megan, people are still struggling to get their unemployment benefits or find that next job. The Faces of Unemployment, our project here at WRTV, committed to telling your stories of struggle, your stories of success.
And WRTV's Troy Washington introduces us to a man who was laid off last summer, and now he's relying on a seasonal job to keep a roof over his head.
Michael Hogue has lost a lot during this pandemic. First, he lost his job, then he lost his place to stay. Now he's just working really hard to not lose hope that things will look up. Hogue used to make trailers for semis until he was laid off last summer. Now he's fallen on hard times and had to rely on rental assistance, friends, and umpiring baseball games to get by, but knows that won't suffice long term.
It was tough. I was actually homeless for over 5 months. Right till after the first of the year. This job in Georgia is going to be making windows. It's a window making company is what it is. So,
in the next half hour, hear what's keeping him going despite the adversity he's facing. Working for you, I'm Troy Washington, WRTV.
All right, winter not letting go of central Indiana. We have a winter weather advisory that'll go into effect later today for parts of the area, including Grant County up in Marion, as well as Blackford County with Hartford City. Here's radar right now. Most of us initially see some rain, but that changes over to snow. Once the snow comes to an end, the entire state of Indiana now under freeze warnings as temperatures could get to record low levels by this time tomorrow. We'll break it all down for you coming up in your WRTV Storm Team forecast.
Welcome back to Good Morning Indiana. When those 911 calls surrounding the shooting at FedEx ground started coming in last Thursday, the Citizens app started alerting residents that something was going on, something wrong was going on. But that information that came from that app and other apps isn't always accurate. Tina Marie Graham is an admin on a Facebook group called the Southwest Association of Neighbors. Her neighborhood is close to the FedEx facility and says a lot of members work there. She says members shared information about the shooting from assumptions they had about what happened.
We do use the Citizens app to be able to find out what's going on in the area. Citizens app isn't always the best resource because you don't get the full picture, you don't get the full story.
We did reach out to the Citizen after seeing information from the app shared across social media early Friday morning. A spokesperson tells WRTV they take their responsibility to keep their users safe and informed. Representatives went on to say they take great care to filter information that is legitimate and of safety concern.
Time now is 6:16 on this Tuesday morning. Hiring Hoosiers is our initiative to connect you to job opportunities to better your life.
And last year, Hiring Hoosiers told you about a new maintenance tech program needed to work in property management.
Yeah, it was a chance to learn some new skills. And so this morning, I catch up with two of the program's participants to see how that opportunity changed their lives. A new training program provides new opportunity to break into an industry that's still busy through this pandemic. August 10th, 2020. That's the day here at WRTV we told you about a new apprenticeship program through the Indiana Apartment Association. The statewide trade association represents more than 255,000 apartment units across Indiana, and this opportunity provides classwork and hands-on experiences in the field for those interested in becoming a maintenance technician.
Very, very busy. After we do grounds for about an hour or so, but after that, it's just go, go, go.
Crystal Young has been on the job since October, but before that, she felt the impacts of the pandemic, getting laid off from her job with Hertz. Her pastor told her about this opportunity for a career pivot.
It's finally something to retire from. And that was my biggest goal. And I thought that was Hertz, but that's the biggest thing, having something to retire from.
Fellow participant Clay Iverson is a maintenance tech on the South Side.
It's always something different.
He was a cook working 2 jobs to make ends meet, only to find himself laid off from the service industry when COVID hit. But now he's held this steady, essential job for more than 6 months.
I like interacting with the residents, being able to help them out with stuff. Makes you feel good. Worst part of the job, probably lugging water heaters upstairs and getting stuck under sinks.
And Crystal, how about you?
I agree with Clay with helping the elderly. It's a lot of fun.
The career perfectly suits people who like to work with their hands and problem solve. Maintenance techs do every aspect of residential repair, and no 2 days are ever alike, which provides people like Clay an opportunity to specialize in the future if he chooses to.
Well, I'm a lot more interested in the trades now. I've actually been looking into starting an HVAC program at Ivy Tech through the Workforce Ready grant.
Through the Indiana Apartment Association's training program, all training materials, coursework, and tools needed are free. After the completion of the course, participants interview for a 4-week paid internship with the goal of becoming full-time employees. IAA had a 100% placement rate this past year. And we've learned in this pandemic that industry is basically recession proof because people always need somewhere to live and things need to be repaired and replaced. Many companies offer housing discounts if you live on site, as well as competitive full-time benefits. To apply for this next round of the IAA Career Pathways program, just go to hiringhoosiers.com. That program is accepting applications right now for both May and August of this year. It is 6:19. Let's toss things over to Todd for a check of our cool forecast. I didn't want to say wintry forecast, but it kind of is.
I know. I thought we could kind of put away all the snow graphics, be done with them, but we had, unfortunately, have to break them out here for later on today. Now, it's all quiet this morning as you get going. Temperatures are in the 30s and 40s. This is very similar to where we started yesterday, so nothing really abnormal here as far as temperatures for the morning hours today. Completely different, as I'll show you come this time tomorrow. Highs today in northern locations are only going to be in the 30s and 40s. So essentially your temperatures are not going to move much at all here throughout the day today from where we are right now. As we progress further to the south, you notice a couple degrees warmer. Crawfordsville, Noblesville, mid to upper 40s in Indy. But as we continue to the south, you notice temperatures do climb up into the 50s and even 60s in southern locations. So if you're in southern locations, it turns into at least a relatively mild day initially. But eventually, as this cold front comes to the south, everybody's temperatures are really going to tumble later on this afternoon. A few hit or miss showers up in the Logansport area over into Monticello and Peru right now. Rest of central Indiana is dry. The precipitation currently moving from west to east, not really dropping down to the south, but you look off to the west, and this is really what we'll have to deal with later on this afternoon as it heads in our direction. And you'll see that on TrueCast here as we go hour by hour throughout the day. Most of the daytime hours will be dry, or at least the morning hours. As we get into the afternoon hours, the rain showers will develop first here in northern locations, and then we'll kind of transition over to a mix. And you'll get into a little bit of snow a little bit earlier in northern locations, but it probably doesn't change over to snow in the metro area and points to the south until we get a little closer to sunset and then beyond. Once the snow comes in, though, it does have the potential to be pretty intense. That will reduce visibility on the roadways. Be aware of that, even though there won't be a lot of snow that'll stick on the roadways, because there's going to be a lot of melting that'll take place because the roadways are warm, and also we are dealing with temperatures that'll still be above freezing. So about 1 to 2 inches on average across the area. You see that plus sign. For those of you in northern locations, you cool quicker, you get into a little better potential for some accumulation across the area. But you can kind of cut those numbers in half with the melting. It'll mainly be on grassy areas, and again, reduced visibility going to be an issue. 27 tomorrow morning in the city, 25 in Peru. The record is 28 for tomorrow morning as far as lows go. That is very much in jeopardy. It's chilly once again Thursday morning, but probably not quite a record on Thursday. Either way, it's a very cold blast of air following that light snow event tonight. As we get towards the weekend, though, back up into the 60s for your high temperatures, Lauren.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. Let's take a look at your commute right now from our live drive vehicle. Our photographer, Shay Goodbaster, is traveling southbound this morning on the south side. This is in the Southport Road area, so we're going south. You can see everything here is traveling up to speed. And then if you look across the interstate there, traffic moving northbound towards the downtown area, that's moving along just fine as well. We'll keep you updated if there are any trouble spots to avoid for your Tuesday commute. Smooth sailing at this hour. It's 6:22. We'll be right back. It is 6:25 on your Tuesday. Raphael, Megan, this is the time where we chat about what is trending at 6.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we're about, over a year into this pandemic. We have to wear the face masks. Sometimes they're a little uncomfortable. So check out this. A Belgian artist has created a literal bubble to keep himself distanced amid this pandemic. The artist says it's actually a portable oasis.
I
made
want
of,
that.
Yeah, plexiglass. Guys, it's also a mini greenhouse filled with plants, just purifying the air that he's breathing. He says he came up with this idea 15 years ago. He says the oasis also helps his asthma, and he says it's more comfortable than a face mask. I don't know about that,
but Raph will get you one.
Yeah.
I have a flamingo suit jacket that would match that. I think it would be perfect for summertime. Yeah.
I like it. Well, closer to home, at least in North Carolina, a man there lending a hand, or a tractor technically, to help end a wild police chase. Buzz Palmer was on a tractor when the chase came roaring down his driveway. So this former volunteer law enforcement driver wasted no time switching to high gear. Palmer helped corral the vehicle until it had nowhere else to go after the car made a splash landing into the pond. Police officers were able to move in and arrest the suspects. So way to use that tractor very quickly. I guess they're useful for more than just
all in a day's work.
Yeah,
No
seriously.
big deal.
And he knew what to do, so kudos.
May have to get a tractor next year. We'll see what happens. Now, choosing where to go to college, of course, is a big deal. So I want you to imagine how hard the decision will be for Julian Sims. You see, the Illinois teen has acceptance letters, not from 1 or 2 or 3, but 25 colleges that he applied to. Julian has also been offered more than $1 million in scholarship money by the various universities. Julian says his mom is the reason for his success. Way to go, Mom. Aww. And for his college decision, Julian says he's not 100% sure yet, but the decision will come by the May 1st deadline. So he has a couple of days. Julian, all the best of luck. Hopefully he can maybe use all that $1 million in one place. That would be the nicest thing. I don't know. We'll see. Todd Clausen. Yeah, you go, Julian.
I'll tell you what, I do not have a $1 million forecast for you here today, Raphael. That is for sure, as we are expecting later on today some rain, then eventually snow, followed by temperatures by this time tomorrow that are going to be well below freezing and potentially record-breaking across the area in the 20s. Here's the view this morning, though, from IMS. You notice mostly cloudy skies, but there's a little clear sky out there. The overall trend, though, this morning will be for the mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures right now are sitting in the 30s and 40s. Back off to our west, you notice that there are some rain and snow showers that are out there, and that's what's heading our way later on this afternoon. So this morning you will be fine. Just mostly cloudy skies, temperatures in the 40s. Our high today occurs pretty early in the afternoon, and then the temperatures start to fall. Some scattered showers come in mid-afternoon. Heavier rain develops as we work our way into the 4 and 5 o'clock hour. Then you see by 6 o'clock, we're mixing in some snow. From 6 o'clock onward, that's when some light accumulating snow will take place. Shouldn't impact the roads all that much. They'll get wet, maybe a little slushy in spots to the north, but we shouldn't get snow-covered roads. That's the good news. We'll talk more about that snow in detail coming up in just a few minutes.
From the station working for you, this is Good Morning Indiana, streaming now.
Now on Good Morning Indiana, this is your 6:30 news feed. More gun violence in Indianapolis, this time on the city's north side. Metro Police investigating a double homicide. This happening Monday afternoon on Baltimore Avenue, southwest of 38th and Keystone. One man was found dead in the driver's seat of the vehicle. A second man was found lying in the road near the car. He died at a hospital. Investigators think a passenger in another vehicle shot into that victim's car.
Also in Johnson County, a 2-year-old child is dead after they were hit by a car inside a mobile home park. The Johnson County Sheriff's Office says it happened just before 5 o'clock Monday evening at the Winterbrook Mobile Home Park, just outside of Greenwood. The driver who struck the child is an employee of the park, and the driver is cooperating with investigators.
Well, the Hoosiers and the Irish are regular basketball opponents, but in a few years, they're going to meet on the football field for the first time in 4 decades. BYU and Notre Dame have agreed to a home-and-home football series. The two teams will now face off at Notre Dame Stadium 2030. Then they'll meet at Memorial Stadium down in Bloomington in the year 2031. The Irish and the Hoosiers have not played each other since 1991. Notre Dame won that game 49-27. Well, here at 6:30, I want to wish you a very good morning from our team here at WRTV, and good morning, Indiana. Good morning to all my colleagues here, other than Todd Clausen, because you did not have the best forecast today. It's okay. We know it's not your fault, Todd, but it's not good news.
Hey, you remember those 70-degree days that we had back at the beginning of the game?
That's true.
We get a little bit of payback here later on today. This morning, as you walk out the door, beautiful sunrise taking place. Look at this in Bloomington. In Bloomington, you're one of the areas today that'll probably climb up close to 60 degrees just because you're in the southern portion of the state compared to northern locales where the cold front is going to arrive a lot sooner. It's cool in Bloomington this morning with the clear skies at 36, more in the way of clouds. In Indianapolis, 39, and then overcast in Kokomo this morning at 38 degrees. And as you work your way up into the Peru area, back into Logansport, Monticello, there's a little bit of light rain that's taking place. This is the cold front, and it will move from north to south throughout the afternoon and evening hours. And we'll deal with mainly rain showers throughout the afternoon, but eventually we'll transition over to some snow for just about everybody as the temperatures start to fall. So your highs today will be occurring mid-afternoon, and then as we get into the evening hours, the temperatures will drop as first the rain moves in, and then as we get closer in the metro area to about 6-7 o'clock, that's when we change over to snow. Those of you in northern locations, that changeover takes place a little bit sooner. Southern locations, obviously a little bit later. We'll talk about potential snow accumulation and impacts for you coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. We are keeping a close eye on your commute this morning. Overall, around the metro area, things are traveling up to speed. You can see we found a bird nest here on one of our cameras here, I-70 and Sam Jones Expressway. Quiet morning out there to our west. Just got word of a crash in the downtown area. We're monitoring right now at College in New York. Reports that someone there struck a utility pole. So if you come across any areas where traffic lights are out or flashing red this morning, treat that as a four-way stop. Multiple vehicles reported to be involved in that crash. We'll get more information on that and keep you updated. But overall, in your interstates, things are traveling up to speed. So new this morning, you'll soon be able to test yourself for the coronavirus at home. You can use this. It's an over-the-counter COVID test now being sold at your local pharmacy. The test is called Binax Now. It's a rapid antigen test made by Abbott Laboratories. It's now been shipped to major pharmacies like Walgreens, CVS, and Walmart. The test will be sold in 2-count packs for about $24. They can be used on children as young as 2. You can take the test even if you don't show symptoms and get results within 15 minutes. Abbott is working with retailers to prioritize distribution to areas of the country where the virus is surging. Megan?
Time now is 6:33. As the pandemic drags on, some Hoosiers are still struggling to get their unemployment benefits or find their next job. WRTV's Faces of Unemployment project is our commitment to tell your stories. Our Troy Washington talks with a man leaning on faith and friends to get through this tough time.
Last summer, Michael Hogue lost his job in the middle of a pandemic. That led to him staying in a shelter. Now he's just ready to get back on his feet and stay on them.
I actually was homeless and living on the streets and living in shelters and stuff.
Michael Hogue's whole life turned upside down after losing his job making trailers for semis.
Just say that I just wanted to give up. That's how bad it was.
He's finally got a roof over his head, but he's worried about being able to make rent each month since checks from umpiring baseball won't cut it. He's yet to find another job, and he knows he can't rely on rental assistance or his friends forever.
I want to get another job, but my main issue is I'm just tired of the runaround I'm getting with the Department of Workforce Development.
He says he only got unemployment for a few months before there was an issue with his account. While trying to get that sorted out, he's looking towards what's next.
Very nerve-wracking. So I got an opportunity, but it's out of state. This job in Georgia is going to be making windows. It's a window making company is what it is.
Right now, he's just waiting on his phone to ring so he can head off to a new beginning and a fresh start. Working for you, I'm Troy Washington, WRTV.
On this Tuesday, we're waiting to get new details on how former Vice President Walter Mondale will be honored following his death. Mondale served 12 years representing Minnesota in the U.S. Senate when Jimmy Carter chose him as his Democratic running mate back in 1976. After Carter lost his bid for re-election, Mondale himself, he challenged President Ronald Reagan in 1984 and lost in a landslide, only carrying his home state of Minnesota and the District of Columbia. Mondale finished his career serving as U.S. ambassador to Japan during Bill Clinton's administration. Walter Mondale was 93 years old. Still to come on Good Morning Indiana, did an Indiana law designed to keep guns away from those who are mentally ill fail last week? Coming up, a look at the red flag law and the reasons that this time it could not prevent a tragedy. And much more coming up right here on WRTV. Lauren?
And Raphael, they wanted to do it for years, and now it's starting to happen. We'll show you how the medical profession is taking a new look at gun violence and its impact on the health of our community. That story and more just after the break. Welcome back to Good Morning Indiana. The time right now is 6:38. We have our live drive vehicle traveling along Interstate 70 right now, heading towards the downtown area. Traffic on your interstates traveling up to speed this morning, now monitoring any problems. But as you're heading into the downtown area, I want to make you aware of a crash we're monitoring right now. Let's take a look at our traffic now map. This one is at New York Street and College Avenue. We do have reports that multiple vehicles were involved in a wreck at this location and that one of those vehicles crashed into a utility pole. So just be aware of that. We'll continue to monitor any impacts from this crash on your commute, but if you're heading into the downtown area, you may want to avoid that spot at this hour. Megan?
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. And we are learning more details about how the deadly mass shooting at FedEx unfolded just last week.
Yeah, Metro Police releasing new details about the day of the shooting and the year leading up to that tragedy on the city's west side. Metro Police released those details, of course, letting us know the following information. Investigators say the shooting lasted less than 4 minutes and was over before officers arrived. According to police, 19-year-old Brandon Hull began firing randomly outside the facility and then entered the building where he continued shooting. 4 people were found dead outside. Another 4 were killed inside. 5 others were sent to the hospital with a variety of injuries. The suspect, as we reported last week, was found dead after he died by suicide. 2 rifles were recovered at the scene. Let's take a closer look at that situation involving the weapons, because police say those 2 rifles were purchased legally last July and September. We're also learning that Hull was terminated from FedEx in October of last year when he failed to return to work. Also in 2020, his mother reported that he made comments about committing so-called suicide by cop. During that investigation, police say they saw officers saw white supremacist websites on Hull's computer. In response, FBI agents interviewed Hull back in April of 2020. On Friday, as you may recall, the FBI released a statement saying that no racially motivated violent extremism ideology was identified during the assessment. We still don't know at this point in time what was the motive for last week's tragic attack.
As we told you earlier, police officers say the suspect purchased the guns used in Thursday's shooting legally. And that's despite the investigation that happened back in 2020. Our Kelsey Anderson joins us live this morning with details on the investigation and the state law that's designed to keep shootings like this from happening. Kelsey, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Megan. So in that investigation that happened last year, police did confiscate a shotgun from Brandon Hull, but Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears says authorities did not seek a hearing under the state's red flag law. He says that's because they didn't have a strong enough case at the time. So how does Indiana's red flag law work? It allows the seizure and retention of firearms from dangerous and mentally ill individuals who may present risk of injury to themselves or others. But there are some loopholes, one of which has been made very clear following Thursday's shooting.
This case does illustrate some of the shortcomings that exist with this red flag law. There's a significant limitation to the law in terms of if we initiate these proceedings, there's nothing prohibiting that individual to go out and then purchase an additional firearm or 20 firearms. They are free to do that until there is an actual documented finding where a judge says, I can find by clear and convincing evidence that this person has a propensity for violence or mental instability.
So under the statute, the prosecutor's office has 14 days to collect that evidence. Muir says that is not enough time to subpoena medical records and conduct interviews. It also only authorizes a search warrant to seize a weapon, but not the ability to get a court order to acquire medical history. So Indiana's red flag law, has been around since 2005. It's named after Officer Timothy Jake Laird, who was shot and killed in 2004. Now, that law has been used hundreds of times here in Indianapolis, and we talked to Laird's father, and he says he knows it's not perfect, but he also knows that it is doing some good here in the state of Indiana. Reporting live, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Kelsey, thank you. It is 6:43. For the first time in more than 2 decades, federal health officials are studying the impact of gun violence on public health. The CDC had stopped that kind of research back in the 1990s after the National Rifle Association and other gun groups accused health officials of promoting gun control. Here in Indiana, health experts say it's about more than studying the public health effects of shootings that take place. It's also about researching how the lack of mental health treatment can lead to tragedy.
We live in a country where we haven't treated mental health the same way we have treated physical health over generations. You know, it's harder for a lot of people to admit when they need help for mental health. It is more difficult and more expensive often for them to access help for mental health. And we often don't recognize, or we don't want to recognize in our family members when they are struggling, or we don't know what to do because we haven't been a country that really tackles mental health on parity with physical health in the past. So when you bring all of these things together, we really are facing this public health crisis.
Late last year, the CDC and the National Institutes of Health began funding research on gun violence after extensive lobbying by doctors. Raphael.
They made a major change and they kept the vaccine lines moving. Coming up, a WRTV fact check on why a major vaccine disruption did not impact a major vaccination attempt. But first, your local forecast on this Tuesday with our Todd Clausen. Good morning, TK.
Raphael, good morning to you. Say it isn't snow, but it is in the forecast here as we work our way into the evening hours. It's quiet right now, but eventually this rain and snow that's off to our north and northwest will make its way here into central Indiana. We'll have the timeline and let you know how much accumulation you can expect in your neighborhood coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues right here on WRTV.
New this morning, as the race to vaccinate Hoosiers and people across the country continues, there's a new warning from the CDC. Health officials are recommending that if you experience new symptoms after receiving Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine, you should seek medical treatment immediately. Last Tuesday, the vaccine was put on pause due to a small number of cases where women experienced rare blood clots. Now the CDC says it's also looking into a small number of cases where serious reactions may be linked to J&J's vaccine. A CDC panel is expected to meet Friday to give an update on the use of the vaccine, Lauren.
And Megan, Hoosiers who plan to get the J&J vaccine, they're looking for other options. You may remember it was 1 week ago today that vaccine was put on pause.
It was breaking news, and of course, the biggest vaccination site to provide the J&J vaccine was the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But how was the Speedway able to pivot so fast last week to get a big supply of the Moderna vaccine? This is your fact check. As fast as an Indy car was the decision to pause the use of the J&J vaccine. 6 cases out of more than 7 million doses raised concerns when regulators learned of rare blood clots impacting women. The unexpected flap put the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a tough spot, as it hosted a major vaccination clinic of the single-dose shot. Unable to do that, the track quickly dropped the green flag on Plan B, providing the 2-dose Moderna. But how did that happen? The state health department avoided chaos by sending about 10,000 doses of Moderna it had on hand. The Moderna sent here to the track was initially scheduled for what the health department calls special projects, like pop-up clinics. IMS received 7,500 doses. By Wednesday, the state received 36,000 more doses of Moderna. So the home of the Borg Warner Trophy was back on track to vaccinate. And don't forget that you can get vaccinated at 500 sites across our state. Now listen, fact-checking is something that we do every single day here at WRTV as well as WRTV.com. But is there a topic out there that you'd like to know more about? So let us know. Maybe something you see on social media that you wonder, is that even true? You can send your request right now to our website and to our email, workingforyou@WRTV.com. So is it true or false that we may see snow tonight? The only person with that answer, of course, is our Todd Clausen. Todd, give me a fact check. What am I going to say tonight?
That is a fact. We are expecting snow later on today, Raphael, and here it is, April 20. We're still talking about the potential for snow. And we had those temperatures in the 70s and 80s at the beginning of the month, and then here we are now talking about snow. It just shows you how we get our weather averages, right, as we are going well below normal. Now this morning, here's a beautiful shine in Bloomington. Some clouds starting to build in. And the morning hours today are mainly dry for everybody across the area. It's this afternoon that first some rain moves in, and then we change over to snow as we get a little bit closer to sunset later on this evening. Temperatures currently are sitting in the 30s and 40s across the area. 36 in Bloomington, 39 in Indy, 38 in Tipton. And highs today are really only going to be in the low 40s in northern locations. So you really don't see your temperatures go up a whole lot here throughout the day today compared to temperatures that'll be rather mild in southern locations, 56 and 60 degrees from Bloomington over towards Columbus. Few showers this morning, maybe a few snowflakes up towards Peru as well as Monticello. That is going to just continue to move off towards the east. It's this that's off to our west that we'll deal with later on this afternoon as the front starts to drop down to the south. Here's the timeline for you, the timestamp in the top right-hand portion of your screen. Early afternoon, rain moves into northern locations. You change over to snow a little bit quicker in northern locations. The rain probably moves into the metro area by 5, 6 o'clock. Probably doesn't change over to snow, though, until closer to sunset, which is a little after 8 o'clock now this time of year. But once we do go over to snow, it will have the potential to be pretty intense and heavy. That is going to cause maybe some issues on the roadways with visibility. It should still melt, even though it's going to be pretty heavy on the roadways for the most part. They'll get wet, but visibility could be a concern if you're driving around. Generally about 1 to 2 inches. Could be some higher totals to the north, but a lot of that is going to melt as it hits the ground, as there's a lot of limiting factors when it comes to springtime snow. The temperature above freezing yesterday. The ground is very warm, and so a lot of it's going to, as mentioned, melt on at least the asphalt or the pavement. There will be some accumulation on grassy areas, again about 1 to 2 inches on average. But your evening forecast, this is going to be the concern as we go throughout the evening hours. The snow, the visibility, there's sunset now right before 8:30. But notice the temperatures this evening are still above freezing. That changes once the front fully goes through. By tomorrow morning, potentially record low temperatures down into the mid-20s in all locations. It's a very cold start to our day tomorrow. Wednesday as a whole is pretty chilly with some lingering rain showers, and then temperatures do moderate, Lauren, as we work our way towards the weekend.
All right, Todd, thanks so much. We just got to that scene of that crash we're monitoring in the downtown area. This is a view from our live drive vehicle at New York and College, where they are putting that vehicle up on a record there. We heard that there was a vehicle that crashed into a utility pole, and it looks like they're working to clear that scene right now. The good news is a moment ago I saw plenty of traffic still moving by this area, and it looks like the power and everything is still on in that spot. So it's not causing too many issues for your commute. Just be aware of that and give crews plenty of space. Let's take a look though at our traffic now map. First, let's show you where you just saw our live drive vehicle here, College and New York in the downtown area. But traveling down here to the south side, we do have a new crash to show you. It's on the entrance ramp from Harding Street to westbound I-465, slowing down traffic a little bit in that area. So just keep that in mind if that is part of your commute. It is 6:53. We'll have your top stories just after the break. Stick around.
Welcome back to Good Morning Indiana. All eyes are on Todd's radar. Todd, tell us, please keep the snow away, but I'm sure it's coming, right?
It's coming. The good news for us, at least, Raphael, it's when we're going to bed, so we'll miss most of it as we go forward throughout the day. But it arrives this afternoon as far as the rain goes, and then the snow this evening. The morning hours are dry pretty much for everybody. But here's the timeline of the rain moving into northern locations by 2:30, and then that progresses further south, changing over to snow by about 7, 8 o'clock. It's a quick burst of snow. There could be about an inch or two of accumulation on grassy areas. Not too concerned about the roads in northern locations where it gets colder a little bit quicker. Could see some slush, but mostly the roads will be wet. However, do watch out for visibility issues when the snow is falling. A lot of that snow will melt away once it hits the ground. So even though I say 1 to 2 inches, it's going to be pretty hard to measure. Very cold tomorrow morning, and then finally warmer temperatures work their way back in for the weekends.
I've got my turtleneck on. Thank you, Todd. And we're back in 25 minutes and throughout Good Morning America with the latest news, weather, and traffic updates. We'll see you then.